The harvest. The twin suns of Meridian painted the sky in shades of gold and crimson as the annual harvest festival reached its peak. Children ran through the streets of New Shanghai, their laughter echoing off the colonial buildings while their parents watched with proud smiles. Paper lanterns swayed in the gentle breeze, casting dancing shadows across the celebration. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the observation deck of the Colonial Administration Building, watching the festivities below. At 35, she had spent half her life protecting human colonies on the outer rim. Her dark hair was pulled back in a regulation ponytail, and her brown eyes constantly scanned the horizon. Something felt different today, though she couldn't explain what. Dr. Marcus Chen emerged from his laboratory 3 levels below, adjusting his wire-rimmed glasses as he climbed the stairs. The xenobiologist had been studying alien flora samples all morning, but the sound of celebration had finally drawn him outside. His black hair showed premature streaks of gray from years of intensive research, and his gentle demeanor made him popular with the colony's children. Down in the festival square, 10-year-old Zara Okafor was winning her 3rd game of orbital rings. Her bright smile lit up her dark face as she tossed the glowing rings with perfect accuracy. Her parents, both engineers who had helped build Meridian's infrastructure, cheered from the sidelines. Zara had always been exceptional at games requiring quick thinking and spatial awareness. Administrator Grace Williams was reviewing supply reports when her assistant burst into her office. The middle-aged woman had managed colonial operations for over a decade, earning respect for her fair leadership and protective nature toward the colonists. The first sign of trouble came from the orbital sensors. Captain Vasquez received the alert on her wrist communicator while watching the children play. 12 massive ships had just dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. They were sleek and black, bearing the triple star insignia of the Dominion Empire. Elena frowned as she studied the sensor data. The Dominion rarely visited human space, and never in such large numbers. She activated the colony's defense protocols and sent an immediate message to Earth Command, though the communication would take 3 days to reach them across the vast distances of space. Dr. Chen joined Elena on the observation deck as the ships approached. Through his telescope, he could see their unusual design, too angular for exploration vessels, too large for simple cargo haulers. "Those are military configurations," he said quietly. But why would the Dominion send warships to a harvest festival? The ships entered Meridian's atmosphere with perfect formation, their engines producing a low humming sound that made the ground vibrate. They were beautiful in a cold, mechanical way, but their presence cast a shadow over the celebration below. Children stopped playing to stare up at the sky, while parents instinctively moved closer to their families. Administrator Williams received the first communication from the lead ship. The voice was artificially modulated, speaking in perfect standard galactic. "Meridian Colony, this is Dominion Fleet Commander Thex. We are implementing Emergency Protocol 77 Alpha. All human children between the ages of 6 and 14 must be immediately quarantined for biological contamination assessment." Grace's blood ran cold. She had never heard of Protocol 77 Alpha, and the Dominion had no authority to implement emergency procedures on human worlds. She requested clarification, but the response was swift and final. Refusal to comply will result in enforcement action. The contamination poses a threat to galactic stability. Compliance is mandatory. Captain Vasquez activated all available defenses, but Meridian was a farming colony with minimal military capabilities. Their weapons were designed to handle raiders and wildlife, not Dominion warships. Elena watched helplessly as blue energy barriers surrounded key areas of the colony, cutting off escape routes. In the festival square, Dominion soldiers emerged from the landed ships. They moved with mechanical precision, their gray uniforms bearing no individual markings. Each soldier carried a device that emitted a soft blue glow, and when they pointed these devices at the children, something terrible happened. Zara Okafor felt a strange tingling sensation when the blue light touched her. Her thoughts became fuzzy, and her body moved without her conscious control. She found herself walking toward the ships along with dozens of other children, unable to resist or call out to her parents. The device had somehow taken control of her nervous system. Dr. Chen realized what was happening as he observed the children's strange behavior. "It's neural manipulation," he told Elena urgently. "Those devices are interfering with brain function. The children aren't choosing to go with them, they're being controlled." Parents tried desperately to reach their children, but the energy barriers prevented them from getting close. Some threw themselves against the barriers until their hands were burned by the energy fields. Others screamed for help that would not come. The Dominion soldiers ignored their pleas entirely. Elena coordinated with her small security team to find weaknesses in the barriers, but Dominion technology was far more advanced than anything humans possessed. The barriers were impenetrable, and any attempt to break through them resulted in painful energy feedback. Administrator Williams continued trying to negotiate with Fleet Commander Thex, but the responses became increasingly cold and mechanical. "The children carry a genetic sequence that threatens galactic stability," Thex explained. "They will receive proper care and treatment. Parental interference is not permitted." Dr. Chen requested to examine the children or at least observe the contamination testing, but his requests were denied. "Human medical knowledge is insufficient for this assessment," came the reply. "Superior treatment will be provided by Dominion specialists." The loading process took 4 hours. 87 children from Meridian were taken, along with thousands more from 24 other human colonies simultaneously. The operation was clearly coordinated across vast distances, requiring months or years of planning. As the ships prepared to depart, Dr. Chen made a disturbing discovery. He had been analyzing biological samples from the colony for months, including genetic material from many of the children. There was no contamination, no biological threat, nothing that could pose any danger to galactic stability. The children were perfectly healthy by every scientific measure. But there was something unique about human children that Dr. Chen had noted in his research. Between the ages of 6 and 14, human neural development showed remarkable plasticity. Their brains could form new connections and adapt to new situations faster than any other known species. This wasn't a defect or contamination, it was an evolutionary advantage. The horrible truth became clear. The Dominion hadn't taken the children because they were sick. They had taken them because their developing brains could be used for something the Dominion needed. Something that required the unique neural flexibility that only human children possessed. Captain Vasquez sent an emergency message to every human world as soon as the Dominion ships left Meridian's atmosphere. Her message was simple but carried enormous implications: they didn't come for our sick. They came for our best. The response from Earth came faster than expected. Not 3 days, but 3 hours. The message was encrypted with codes that Elena had never seen before, codes that were apparently older than the colonies themselves. Admiral Sarah Cross herself was commanding the response, though Elena had thought Cross was just a historical figure from textbooks. The message was brief: Protocol Shepard is now active. All colonies maintain defensive positions. The pack protects its young. Similar messages were being received on human worlds throughout the galaxy. What the colonists didn't know was that humanity had never stopped preparing for war. For 3,000 years, while building farms and cities and celebrating harvest festivals, they had also been building something else entirely. Hidden beneath mining operations were weapons factories. Disguised as research stations were military training facilities. Concealed within cargo ships were advanced weapon systems. Every human world contributed to a secret network that spanned the galaxy, waiting for the day when someone would threaten what humans valued most. Dr. Chen received additional data from Earth's xenobiology labs. Human children's neural plasticity made them perfect candidates for biological computers. Their developing brains could be integrated with artificial systems to create a control network capable of managing an entire galactic empire. The children wouldn't be killed, but they would never truly live again. On Earth, in a facility that officially didn't exist, Admiral Sarah Cross was reviewing activation reports from across human space. The woman was 70 years old but moved with the precision of someone half her age. Her silver hair was pulled back severely, and her gray eyes showed no mercy for those who threatened human children. The Admiral's aide approached with the final count. "Ma'am, we have confirmation. 80,000 children taken from 25 worlds. All ships departed simultaneously toward the Nexus system." Admiral Cross nodded slowly. The Nexus system was the heart of Dominion space, heavily fortified and considered impregnable. It was where they would integrate the children into their control systems, turning Earth's brightest young minds into biological machinery. She activated her command codes for the first time in 40 years. Across the galaxy, facilities that had appeared to be simple industrial operations began revealing their true nature. Weapons that had been stored in secret for generations were moved to launch positions. Ships that had been disguised as civilian transports activated military configurations that defied known physics. The Dominion Empire controlled over 2,000 worlds and possessed the most advanced technology in the galaxy. They had never been successfully challenged by any species, and they considered humans to be simple farmers and traders, useful only for their labor and resources. They were about to learn that humanity's greatest deception had been appearing weak when they were actually the most dangerous species in the galaxy. The only reason humans had maintained peace for 3 millennia was because no one had ever threatened their children before. Captain Vasquez received new orders from Admiral Cross. Maintain colony security and prepare for extended operations. Recovery of all human children is priority alpha. All necessary measures are authorized. Elena understood what those words meant. For the first time in 3,000 years, humanity was going to war. Not for territory or resources or political advantage, but for something far more powerful. They were fighting for their young, and there was no force in the universe more dangerous than a parent whose child had been taken. As the news spread through human space, the reaction was swift and unified. Every human world began mobilizing resources they had kept hidden for generations. Every human citizen revealed training and capabilities that no alien species had suspected. The galaxy's most peaceful race was about to become its most violent. The Dominion Empire had made a fatal error in judgment. They had assumed that taking human children would be as easy as taking resources from any other species. Instead, they had triggered a response that would reshape the balance of power across the entire galaxy. Dr. Chen looked up at the stars where the Dominion ships had disappeared with their precious cargo. Somewhere out there, Zara Okafor and 80,000 other children were waiting for rescue. They didn't know it yet, but help was coming. Humanity had spent 3,000 years preparing for this moment, and they would not fail their young. The age of human peace was ending. The age of human war was about to begin. And the galaxy would never be the same. The Reckoning. 30 days after the taking, the Titan shipyards revealed themselves for the first time in 3 millennia. What the galaxy had believed to be the asteroid mining operation near Jupiter was actually the largest military construction facility ever built. Admiral Sarah Cross stood on the command bridge of the UHS Vengeance, watching as hundreds of warships emerged from hidden bays carved into the asteroid belt. Each ship was a masterpiece of concealed engineering, built with technologies that had been developed in secret while humanity maintained its peaceful facade. The Vengeance itself was larger than anything the Dominion had ever constructed, its hull gleaming with armor that could deflect energy weapons and projectiles alike. Colonel James Murphy stood beside the Admiral, reviewing tactical reports from across human space. At 42, Murphy had spent his entire adult life training for a war that everyone hoped would never come. His weathered face showed no emotion as he studied the enemy positions, but his green eyes burned with determination to bring the children home. The Colonel's report was comprehensive and devastating. "Admiral, we have confirmed locations for all 80,000 children. They're being held at processing centers throughout the Nexus system, with the primary facility on Nexus Prime itself. Intelligence indicates they're being prepared for neural integration with Dominion control systems." Admiral Cross's jaw tightened. The thought of human children being used as biological computers filled her with a cold rage that had been building for 30 days. What's our tactical assessment, Colonel? Murphy activated a holographic display showing the Nexus system. 12 planets orbited a binary star system, each one heavily fortified with defensive platforms and patrol fleets. Nexus Prime sat at the center, protected by energy shields and weapons arrays that had never been successfully challenged. The Dominion has approximately 15,000 ships in the Nexus system, Murphy continued. Their technology is advanced, but their tactics rely on overwhelming force rather than innovation. They've never faced an opponent who could match their firepower. On the hidden world of Sanctuary Base, Dr. Keiko Tanaka was making final adjustments to humanity's most closely guarded secret. The quantum resonance weapon had been theoretical for centuries, existing only in the minds of Earth's most brilliant scientists. Now it was real, and it would give human forces an unprecedented advantage. Dr. Tanaka was small in stature but enormous in intellect, her black hair streaked with premature white from years of working with dangerous energies. The weapon she had created could disrupt the quantum foundations of matter itself, causing enemy ships to simply cease existing. It was a terrible power, one that humanity had hoped never to use. Her assistant approached with the final test results. Doctor, the weapon is ready for deployment. Range effectiveness is confirmed at 50,000 kilometers, with cascade effects possible at closer distances. Keiko nodded grimly. The weapon would give them the element of surprise, but only for a short time. Once the Dominion understood what they were facing, they would adapt their defenses. The rescue mission would have to succeed on the first attempt. Meanwhile, Captain Elena Vasquez was leading a very different kind of preparation. On 17 different worlds throughout Dominion space, human civilians who had lived quietly for decades were revealing their true nature. These weren't farmers or traders or teachers, they were deep-cover operatives who had been waiting their entire lives for this moment. Elena coordinated with these sleeper agents through encrypted communications that the Dominion couldn't detect. Each agent had spent years studying their assigned world, learning security protocols and defensive capabilities. When the time came, they would disable shields and weapons systems from within, creating opportunities for the rescue fleets. On Nexus Prime itself, maintenance worker David Park had been cleaning Dominion facilities for 23 years. He was 51 years old with gray hair and a slight limp from an old injury, completely unremarkable to his alien supervisors. What they didn't know was that David had been mapping every corridor and security system in the processing center where the human children were held. David's daily reports to Elena were heartbreaking. The children were being kept in sterile medical facilities, connected to monitoring equipment that measured their neural activity. They were healthy but sedated, unaware of their surroundings while Dominion scientists studied their brain patterns and prepared them for integration. Young Zara Okafor was among those being held in the primary facility. Her exceptional spatial awareness had made her a priority subject for the Dominion's experiments. She drifted in and out of consciousness, sometimes remembering her parents and the Harvest Festival, other times lost in strange dreams induced by the alien medications. Admiral Cross reviewed the final battle plans with her senior staff. The operation would require precise timing across multiple star systems. Human fleets would simultaneously attack 47 Dominion worlds, drawing their forces away from Nexus Prime. While the enemy was distracted, specialized rescue teams would infiltrate the processing centers and extract the children. The Admiral's communications officer brought urgent news. "Ma'am, we're receiving reports from our scouts. The Dominion is accelerating their timeline. Neural integration procedures are scheduled to begin in 72 hours. The room fell silent. Neural integration was irreversible. Once the children's brains were connected to the Dominion control systems, they would lose their individual consciousness forever. They would become living components in an artificial intelligence network, their humanity stripped away for the sake of galactic domination. Admiral Cross made the decision that would define humanity's future. All fleets, execute immediately. Operation Homecoming begins now. Across human space, the largest military mobilization in galactic history began. Ships that had been hidden for 3,000 years emerged from secret bases and began their journey toward Dominion territory. The element of surprise was complete. The Dominion had no idea that humanity possessed any significant military capability. The first phase of the attack targeted Dominion communication networks. DAR. Tanaka's quantum resonance weapons struck relay stations throughout the Empire, disrupting their ability to coordinate defenses. Within hours, the Dominion's technological advantage was severely reduced. Colonel Murphy led the assault on the fortress world of Titan's Gate, the primary gateway to Nexus Prime. His battle group consisted of 50 ships, each one carrying experimental weapons that defied conventional physics. The Dominion defenders had never seen anything like the human attack patterns. The Colonel's flagship, UHS Thunder, engaged 3 Dominion cruisers simultaneously while smaller human vessels darted between enemy formations like predators hunting prey. Human tactics relied on speed and unpredictability rather than brute force, confusing enemies who were accustomed to straightforward confrontations. On Nexus Prime, David Park received the activation signal he had waited 23 years to receive. Moving with surprising agility for his age, he began systematically disabling security systems throughout the processing center. Doors that should have been sealed opened silently. Alarms that should have sounded remained quiet. Guards who should have been alert were distracted by false reports from other areas. Elena Vasquez led the primary rescue team through the compromised security perimeters. Her group consisted of 12 operators, each one trained in close-quarters combat and extraction procedures. They moved through the facility like ghosts, avoiding patrols and disabling surveillance equipment. The processing center was a maze of corridors and laboratories, filled with equipment designed to study and modify sentient minds. Elena's team found the first group of children in a sterile medical ward, connected to monitoring devices but still unconscious from the sedatives. The sight filled Elena with determination to ensure that no human child would ever face this fate again. Dr. Chen, who had insisted on joining the rescue mission despite his lack of combat training, worked quickly to disconnect the children from the alien equipment. His knowledge of xenobiology proved crucial in understanding how to safely remove the monitoring devices without causing harm. Zara Okafor was among the first children to be awakened. Her dark eyes opened slowly, confused and frightened until she saw Dr. Chen's familiar face. Dr. Chen. Where are my parents? What happened to the festival? Elena knelt beside the young girl's bed. We're here to take you home, Zara. Your parents are waiting for you. The extraction proceeded systematically through the facility. Each group of children was carefully awakened and prepared for transport while human forces maintained control of the surrounding areas. The Dominion guards were skilled but unprepared for enemies who fought with desperate determination to protect their young. Admiral Cross monitored the operation from the command bridge of the Vengeance. Reports came in from all 47 target worlds. Dominion forces were in disarray, their communication networks disrupted and their defensive positions compromised. The element of surprise had been complete and devastating. The Admiral's tactical display showed human forces advancing on all fronts. Ships that had been hidden in civilian disguise revealed weapon systems that exceeded Dominion capabilities. Soldiers who had posed as colonists and traders demonstrated training that rivaled elite military units. The galaxy's most peaceful species had become its most formidable military force overnight. Colonel Murphy's assault on Titan's Gate reached its climax as Dominion reinforcements arrived from the outer system. The human battle group was outnumbered 3-1, but their superior tactics and experimental weapons leveled the battlefield. The quantum resonance weapons proved devastatingly effective, causing enemy ships to simply disintegrate under quantum cascade effects. On Nexus Prime, Elena's team had successfully extracted nearly 4,000 children from the primary processing center. The logistics of moving so many young people through hostile territory were challenging, but human preparation had anticipated every obstacle. Transport ships equipped with medical facilities waited at concealed landing sites throughout the planet. The final phase of the rescue began as Admiral Cross's main fleet entered the Nexus system. The Vengeance led a formation of 300 warships, each one representing decades of secret development and preparation. The sight was magnificent and terrifying, humanity's hidden strength revealed at last. Dominion Fleet Commander Thex, who had led the original abduction, found himself facing an enemy he had never expected. His intelligence reports had described humans as primitive farmers with minimal technology. Instead, he faced ships that could outmaneuver his fastest vessels and weapons that could destroy his strongest defenses. The battle for Nexus Prime lasted 18 hours. Human forces demonstrated tactical flexibility that the Dominion couldn't match, constantly adapting their strategies to exploit enemy weaknesses. The Dominion's reliance on overwhelming force proved ineffective against opponents who fought with intelligence and determination rather than simple numerical superiority. Dr. Tanaka's quantum weapons proved decisive in the final engagement. When Dominion ships attempted to form defensive formations, cascade effects from the weapons caused entire squadrons to collapse into quantum uncertainty. The Dominion's technological advantage evaporated in the face of humanity's scientific innovation. As the last Dominion resistance was overcome, Elena Vasquez stood in the evacuation zone watching as thousands of human children were loaded onto transport ships. Zara Okafor ran to embrace her parents, who had traveled from Meridian to witness the rescue. Similar reunions were happening throughout the landing area as families were brought together after 30 days of separation. Admiral Cross received the final report from Colonel Murphy. All children have been recovered and are receiving medical evaluation. Dominion forces in the Nexus system have been neutralized. The processing facilities have been destroyed to prevent any future attempts at neural integration. The Admiral nodded with satisfaction, but her expression remained stern. "Colonel, what's the status of the Dominion Empire?" Murphy consulted his tactical display. 47 worlds liberated, their communication networks destroyed, their military capabilities severely reduced. They're no longer capable of large-scale operations against human territory or any other species. The victory was complete, but Admiral Cross understood its implications. Humanity had revealed its true capabilities to the entire galaxy. The age of hiding behind peaceful facades was over. From now on, every species would know that humans possessed the most advanced military force in known space. Dr. Chen worked with medical teams to ensure that all rescued children received proper care. The Dominion sedatives had caused no permanent harm, and the monitoring devices had been removed without complications. Within days, the children would be returned to their families and their normal lives. But the galaxy would never return to normal. The Dominion Empire's collapse created a power vacuum that would reshape interstellar politics. Other species that had lived under Dominion oppression were now free to determine their own destinies, while potential aggressors understood that humanity would not tolerate threats to innocent life. Captain Vasquez stood with Dr. Chen on the observation deck of the evacuation ship, watching as the last transport departed Nexus Prime. The planet that had been a symbol of Dominion power was now empty, its facilities destroyed and its purpose erased from history. What happens now? Dr. Chen asked, still processing the magnitude of what they had accomplished. Elena looked out at the stars, where human fleets were establishing patrol routes to protect vulnerable worlds throughout the galaxy. Now we make sure this never happens again. The galaxy has learned that humanity protects its children. But more importantly, we've learned that we protect everyone's children. Admiral Cross issued new orders to all human fleets. Rather than returning to hidden bases, they would establish visible patrol stations throughout known space. Humanity's secret was revealed, and their new role as galactic protectors was just beginning. The rescue of 80,000 children had triggered a transformation that would echo through history. The species that had maintained peace through strength had finally shown that strength to the galaxy. And the galaxy was safer for it. In the weeks that followed, delegations from hundreds of worlds traveled to Earth to establish new diplomatic relationships. The Federation of Free Worlds was founded, with humanity serving as both protector and mediator for species that sought freedom from oppression. Zara Okafor returned to Meridian, where the Harvest Festival was celebrated with renewed joy and meaning. Children played in the streets while their parents watched protectively, knowing that humanity's strength would shield them from any future threats. The Titans had fallen, but from their collapse rose something greater, a galaxy where the strong protected the weak, and no child would ever again face the darkness alone. Humanity had answered its greatest test and emerged not just victorious, but transformed into the guardians the galaxy had always needed. The age of human war had ended as quickly as it began. The age of human protection would last forever.